Here on the Overcome Depression podcast, we provide tools and other resources so that you can overcome depression. One of the tools that I have found particularly helpful is doing personality profiles, and not necessarily for the reason you might think. Personalities can change over time, believe it or not. And I wanted to mostly focus on this as a tool for relationships, not just relationships for your family, your friends, but your relationship with God and with yourself. And understanding how you're ticking right now and maybe how other people around you are functioning and thinking at that time can give you kind of a baseline of where you want to go. What do you want to change? Because again, this is not a verdict of this is who you are if you take this test. It's more of a, here's where you are right now.
An idea, a baseline, a starting point. Do further analysis, know thyself.
So I think that the more personality tests you do, the more well-rounded you can start to see yourself, because I think a lot of people who struggle with mental health are putting themselves into boxes. We like to label things. We just do. We like to put them into categories. That's what humans do. We're trying to get out of that, but at the same time, educate ourselves, again, that baseline of where we are right now, and doing it in a broad ways, because I know that me understanding the people around me really did help me to change the way I treated them or thought of them. So, first of all, before you listen to this podcast about the 16 personalities, which is what we're going to be focusing on, I would encourage you, if you haven't taken this test before, or if you've taken it maybe even just a year ago, it would be good to take it again without learning about how the test works, because you're more likely to get an accurate result if you go into it without overthinking it. Just answer the questions honestly. The other thing to consider is that if you are out of alignment, or you're really not in a good place emotionally, there's a good chance that you will get a result that isn't authentic to your developed self. So, for example, the letters that are used in this personality profile are I and E for the extrovert or introvert, S or an N for sensing or intuition, F or T for feeling or thinking, and J or P for judging and perceiving. And this combination can make up to 16 of these personality profiles based on how you answer in the test. But you could be coming up with ENFP in your out of alignment, mentally ill state, when really after you develop and heal, you could be more of an ISTJ, like the polar opposite of what you think you are. So keep that in mind as well. This is just a baseline. Where are you today? It changes. You will be different in 10 years than you are right now.
Right. And if you are having difficulties, you can use this to help understand how other people see you. And if you don't feel that that is accurate, then maybe that's where you need to make the change, because obviously it's not matching up, especially when you have your own self-view. When you see yourself one way, but you take a program like this, or if you talk to a therapist, it might just be that you are not seeing what other people see. So can be very beneficial to have a neutral party doing an analysis like this. And one of these tools is essentially that. For instance, when I took this, it seems like it has judged me fairly accurately, but there's a few parts of this I disagree with, Yeah. And,
so which one were you, John?
Let's see. According to this, I am an introvert, intuitive, about 50-50 between thinking and feeling, and what they call judging. INTJ with a -A, saying that I am assertive.
That's the same one I got. And if you think about it,
wait a minute. If I'm an introvert, how am I also assertive? Just going by the names alone, it makes you
and I'm going to explain
little.
that. I'm going to explain that one, because that's a very misunderstood concept, introversion versus extroversion. So I'm going to teach you something today, John. I'm excited. But that's so cool, because my husband came out with INFJ. I came out with INFJ, and I took it yesterday, and I got INTJ. But again, it can change based on the day. And those are some of the rarest. There's like several that are like 2%, and that's one of them. And then INFJ is supposedly under 2%. It's funny, I keep finding people in that category of INF or TJ because they aren't that common. So
Yeah.
there's several things to be aware of. Benjamin Hardy, who wrote Personality Isn't Permanent, I'm getting some of these ideas from him in his book. But there are some lies that society currently believes as a whole, and I think he's right about them. So first lie is personalities can be categorized into types. He believes this cannot be done. And just like John was saying, it's like, I don't necessarily agree with this, but again, human beings, we like to put things in boxes. And some employers will use this test and weed out applicants just based on their personality. And there's 0% proof that this particular test results in hiring employees that work better than someone who had a different personality they wouldn't even consider. So it has been used for things that aren't that great. Lie. Number 2, personality is innate and fixed. This is who you are. You're never going to change, accept it, deal with your lot, or do the best you can. Third lie. Personality comes from your past. Personality must be discovered. I need to find out who I am. No, decide who you want to be. And personality is your true and authentic self. Lie. So don't take this test and then adopt a very narrow viewpoint of yourself. That's not the idea here. Again, it's about finding empathy and compassion and understanding for yourself of where you are right now and others around you. So you can go to 16personalities.com and take the test. If you haven't already, again, stop this podcast, go take it, and then come back so you can get a more accurate result. But basically, the 16 personalities measure how you observe the world and how you make decisions. So it's to say, as of right now in my life, this is what I'm leaning into as of what I do and I don't like. It's interesting because when I compared my personality to my mom's, I've talked many times about my mom and how much we butted heads. We just didn't get each other. We were constantly pissing each other off, and we weren't even trying to. And I realized after she took the 16 personalities test that we were literally the polar opposite. In other words, the things that mattered to me did not matter to her, and vice versa. What drove me, what motivated me, did not motivate her, and vice versa. It was easy to misunderstand each other because we were coming from completely different views of life and mindsets. Despite the fact that we shared the same religion and we're trying to be good people and all those things, there were just fundamental differences in our personalities that made it hard to click. And understanding that and having that compassion helps me to care about things that she cares about because she cares about them, even if I don't care about it. And not feeling like, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you more like me? Or why don't you see things like I do?
A different lens looking at the world, looking at a situation. One of my favorite quotes is, "It's okay to agree to disagree." When you recognize that you have different opinions, you might have different personalities in certain regards. But as long as you have respect for one another and you recognize those differences, and then you look for where you do agree, where can you form a bond, looking for the good.
The whole moccasins analogy of walking in somebody else's shoes. You haven't lived their life. You don't understand. You can't possibly understand another person fully because you're not them. Only God can do that. It comes down to compassion and respect.
Compassion, respect. This morning when I was driving into work, I saw the sunrise. I was blown away by it. And then it also got me thinking, the car behind me and the car in front of me are still looking at that same sunrise, but from totally different angles. And then there was someone on a hillside way off to the left. So it's like we're all looking at that same sunrise, but it's all different perspectives.
Yeah, if you painted a picture of it, they'd all look different.
Exactly. One art teacher on a regular basis would take their students out to a hillside and tell them, paint a picture of one of the flowers. And every painting was different because they were all coming from all the different angles.
Yeah.
Different events. They modify people, which is why we say, even though you might have a personality now, it can and will change. And one of the things that changes that the most is just experience, living life. People, interacting with people, interacting with events can change your personality in a favorable way or an unfavorable way. It all boils down to what you do with that. Another little warning, sometimes when people look at these tests or they get judged based on their personality, they use that as an excuse for their poor behavior or poor decisions when it's really not.
Yeah. Poor mental health is not an excuse for poor behavior, and neither is a personality profile.
Right.
I talk about that in number 23, the Overcome Depression podcast, if you want to go back and listen to that one. But yeah, the reason I love astrology so much is because there isn't a single chart that's the same. They're all different because we're all different. There's no test out there that can tell everyone exactly who you are. But with that said, let's dissect the 16 personalities profile. And the first one I'm excited to teach you, John, is about extroversion and introversion. So the first letter of the 4 is an I or an E. Both John and I, we have an I. Introverts. And a lot of people think of introversion as shy and quiet and kind of unconfident, or they just like to read books or be alone. And some of them do that. However, that's not what I would call a healthy introvert. Introversion versus extroversion is not about being friendly versus quiet or loud versus soft. Ironically, it's actually about how you charge. So if you feel energized by going to a party or a crowd and being around a lot of people, you love places like New York City, you're probably an extrovert. If you get charged up and rejuvenated from being alone, reading a book, having quiet time, even though you love being out and around people, but you need time to kind of go and be by yourself afterwards, kind of recharge, get your energy back. Where do you get your energy from? Being around people or not being around people? That's introversion versus extroversion. And my dad, some people might be surprised if they knew my dad, they would think, oh, definite extrovert. If you knew my dad really well, you would know he was definitely an introvert. Because while he was acting and very flamboyant and loud in class, and he was a teacher and he was a great speaker, when he was done with that, he was reading a book. That was his happy place. Oh my goodness. He loved just him and a book. In fact, one of my sisters was talking about extroversion versus introversion based on this test. And she was like, yeah, Dad was an extrovert. And the rest of us were like, oh no, he was not. Mom's an extrovert. Mom loves New York City. She loves to be around people. So that's really the difference. It's not excited and loud versus soft. Matthew Hussey actually put it this way. He said that being shy is not a sign of introversion. It's a sign of a lack of confidence. And I completely agree.
That's true.
If you are shy, it's not a trait that you can be proud of. It's nothing to be proud of to be shy. Accept that. You can be friendly, communicative, enjoy talking to other people, and have confidence. We don't need more people who are shy. We need people speaking up. And I used to be painfully shy.
Me too. And I can actually relate to that definition because by profession, I am a teacher, lo and behold. And I spend all day surrounded by teenagers in the public, talking to parents. And I don't have a problem with that. I'm perfectly comfortable. I'm in my world there. Then when I come home, first thing I do is change clothes, sit down, read a book, or watch a show on TV. And I just sit there quiet with my own thoughts.
And an extrovert might be like, okay, I'm going to go out and find someone to hobnob with at the local restaurant. Because that's how they rejuvenate.
A couple of my coworkers, and I can think of one right now, that's what he does. After work, he always goes out to the restaurant or out to the bar, always inviting others to come out with him. So he's at a fair, nobody coming to talk to him, and he's like utterly bored and miserable. And he says it's so tiring. So yeah, that does make sense.
And then as far as introversion and extroversion, we all have some of each. We're a mix, right? It's 70-30 or 40-60, 50-50. Extreme introverts and extreme extroverts are rather uncommon, just as a general rule, usually come in a combo. So S and N is the next letter, sensing or intuition. And I have kind of a bias in favor of intuitives because we're only 70% of the population. The whole world is ruled and run by sensors. And so it's hard being an intuitive and sitting back and going, why are people doing it this way? Why are the laws like this? And it's because sensors run the show. So intuitives are looking at patterns and higher level concepts and the big picture, futuristic. What is meaningful? How will my choices right now have the greatest all-around impact with the future in mind? What's really the best thing to do? Sensors, I think everyone in my family is a sensor except for me. I've found that being in a family that's either heavy on the sensing or heavy on the intuitive can be a challenge when you're with the dynamic, because the person who's the outlier really gets misunderstood. In my immediate family, as far as me, my husband, my kids, the only sensor is my 16-year-old son, which is kind of rare, to have that many intuitives in one household. My family growing up, everyone was sensing and I was an intuitive. So it was always like, what's wrong with her? Why doesn't she agree with all of us? Why is she always thinking this way when we all agree that this is the right thing to do? It can be hard to be in a family with this kind of dynamic. So keeping that in mind. Sensors want results right now. They're looking at the 5 senses. How am I feeling, seeing, hearing, touching, and wanting to find comfort in the here and now and making choices based on what will provide that comfort in the here and now. So often seeking out entertainment or quick solutions. They're the people who get really excited when big news comes out about something that was just terrible that just happened. And they're the ones going, we need change now. We need to make these laws. We need to do this stuff. And the intuitives are going, whoa, 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 whoa. Can we wait till all the information comes out and then we can make a logical, good decision that's rational instead of just these emotionally charged decisions? That's often where I'm sitting and going, oh my gosh.
Do you focus on the puzzle piece, or do you focus on the puzzle?
Yeah, that's kind of the difference. And I hate to sound like I'm bagging on sensors. It's hard being the minority as an intuitive and watching the world go round. They're definitely needed. We definitely need fast solutions. You need a balance of both for sure.
Everyone has their strengths and weaknesses, and it's a mix and a match, a pull and a tug, and that's what makes the world go round.
And if you're listening and you are an ENFP, that's the most common intuitive type.
I'm definitely registered as an intuitive, actually 84% intuitive.
Wow. I can't remember what mine was. I think it was 70-30 or something like that. Okay, the next one is an F or a T. Feeling or thinking. And this is where I think I had the closest to 50-50. It's basically the 2 ways we make decisions, feeling or thinking. And feeling can be emotional, but it's more like, what value do I give to this thing? Good or bad? Is it beneficial or non-beneficial? Do I and others like it? Do we not like it? Thinking is more logical. It's more mathematical. It's procedural. Does it make sense? How does it work? Does it work at all? Is it true? Interestingly, 60% of men are the thinking, 60% of women are feeling. So the other 40% would be swapped. That was the only one that was gender specific. There was a definite favor of women being more feeling, which makes a lot of sense because of how we tend to operate. And I'm sure you would agree, John, that women can be a little more feelers, a little more emotional, tiny bit slightly more connected to sensitive things and children and all of that.
The test came back for me that I'm like 56% on the thinking side, so well balanced between the two. There was a point in my life when I would say I was probably almost 90% thinking. When I was not well, I literally look back and I always say I would not like my former self very much because I was very cold, very icy. And at that point in my life, I said, emotion, feeling is worthless. That's how far I had dropped.
You now have compassion for that former self because you remember what it was like to be in that place, what got you there.
Oh, yeah.
I feel kind of sorry for my previous self sometimes. Like, oh, poor girl. Instead of demonizing her.
Well, as I have always said, a lot of times God allows us to go through certain situations so that way we can empathize when we encounter other people going through a similar scenario. Looking back, I see where I made my mistakes, and if I ever encounter those types of people, I can actually work pretty well with them because I can relate perfectly. Yeah. I was there. I get it.
Yep.
Yeah, I understand. A very common quote is that when you have a family, the man is the head of the family, but the wife is the heart of the family.
I like that
always
quote.
Compassion.
Yeah, it's true. It really is. Not that men don't have a heart, because they do, and not that women don't think and lead, because they do too. It's a balance. But yeah, you need that balance of male and female, and it's important. So J or P is the next one. It's judging.
Ooh.
Or decisions, or perceiving, which is more observations. So again, judging or perceiving.
According to this, I'm judgmental.
I know, right? I was like, oh, it might be
no.
just might just be the choice of word. I don't know, but we'll see what you guys think. Perceiving is looking inward to make decisions, like the inner voice, right? But also, it's more like, what do I want, regardless of what's going on around me? You would tend to want to get as much information as possible. But the funny thing about that to me is that type doesn't want to organize any of the information that they get. So it's just like tons of info that they're just mulling around in their brain. And then they're making a decision based on really what is it that they want of all these things that they're considering. They tend to be more spontaneous and disorganized, but these people also tend to be a little more relaxed and fun. Are you and I not very fun?
Yeah,
judging.
I guess I'm not. Yeah, I'm all judgy.
So judging this is actually kind of cool. And again, we have a combination of both, right? They like to get a good sample of what everyone else is doing. And I see myself doing this. I'll look at what everybody's doing and what kind of results they're getting. It's not like I care about being popular or doing it because everyone's doing it. It's more like, how's that working out for them? The judging types tend to take in less information, like they'll take this, and then they'll just think about those particular considerations and put them all together in an organized fashion in their brain and then make a choice based on the pros and cons of the data that they've collected. But it's not a buttload, terrible amount of data.
Yeah, you don't like spontaneity as much. You plan ahead, you have plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D. We always have to put together emergency lesson plans, and they keep it on file. In the event that I or a teacher calls off unexpectedly, administration can go in, grab one of these emergency plans, so that way they have something for a substitute to do. And they always kind of chuckle at me because I'm about a month ahead of
So
where
you're
I'm
like,
at.
I have it.
They often say I overdo it.
Yeah, I love being spontaneous. I like having kind of an open schedule to be able to do what I want. But as far as organization, I'm like organized queen over here. And I kind of have to be in order to function because I have a very cluttered brain that forgets things if I don't really keep them organized and where I can find them. But I would say definitely more a judging, I think.
One of my favorite things to do to my friends and my family is to, out of nowhere, just be spontaneous, off the cuff, because then they all freak out. Because they're like, wait a minute, what is wrong with you?
What just happened?
I'm so rigid at times that when I do something like that, it just totally catches them off guard.
That's fun. But you
So you can
plan
have
for
fun
it, which is funny because that's the organized part. You're like, I'm going to do it at this time. And this person.
You just had to ruin it. You're pointing that out. Yes, I do plan on being spontaneous.
So the percentages, if you know what you are, this is kind of fun. Almost 1 in 4 people are sensing, feeling, and judging. That's kind of a lot. Orderly, practical, making sure everybody's feeling good. The ISFJ is 14% of the population. That's the most. Then followed closely by the ESFJ, which are pretty similar. So that makes almost 25% even right there. Then you've got the ISTJ, which is not as common for women as it is for men, is still 12% of the population. Then ISFP is 9%. And that particular one, I guess they really like to go to the beat of their own drum. That's those people. ESTJ, 9%. And again, these are rounded because it was like 8.43, and I'm like, I'm not going to say that. ESFP, about 8%, and the 6 most common types, they're all sensors. Then we've got ENFP, 8%, ISTP, 5%, INFP, 4%. Now we're getting down to these little tiny numbers, so even the rare types, you add them up, and they make up about 20% of the population. ESTP is 3%, ENTP is 3%, and the last four are all intuitive and judging. They're least common. So ENFJ, 2.5%, INTJ, 2%, ENTJ, 2%, and INFJ, 1.5%. I had my husband take the test because I'm like, gosh, it would be nice to have someone who understands me and how my mind works. Wouldn't it be cool if I could find an INFJ? And he took the test and he was an INFJ, and I'm like, oh, I found him. I was really excited. But again, it does not define you. He already had amazing qualities. I was already sold. I just thought that was extra cool.
It's always nice to find that I am a rare find.
Rare gem you are, John. And I sure do appreciate you. That is the extent of my lesson in the 16 personalities. I hope you enjoyed it, John and audience.
I did, and you probably heard us laughing because you do also have to take it like a grain of salt, a little bit of humor with it, because it is just a tool. Don't let it define you. Don't use it as an excuse. Learn what they have to say. Take it for what it is. It can be fun.
Yeah.
And also to realize that you're not set in stone, because I can tell you from personal experience, Jennifer can tell you this, my personality today is different than it was a year, 2 years, 3 years ago. And I guarantee my personality a year from now, 2 years from now, it's going to change.
We change more than we think. Think about who you were 10 years ago. For example, did you think you would be who you are now 10 years ago? Some people are slow movers. They don't evolve as much as others, but I would be unrecognizable to you if you saw me 10 years ago.
Yeah, I've changed my life at least twice.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like literally had to restart my life. And each one of those events changed me. And I like to think that it's in a positive fashion. What we're telling my students, that one of my biggest traits is honesty.
Which was not the case when you were a youngin'.
No, it was not. I could lie through my teeth. And because I was unemotional, most people couldn't even tell because I was cold and unfeeling. But one of the things I actually had to learn, I was overly honest in that I didn't mince my words. I would tell people exactly what I thought of them, and I didn't have an emotional filter.
Be kind of mean, yeah.
I have this one example, and oh my gosh, a woman came over and did the classic, does this dress make me look fat?
Oh, no.
I gave my honest opinion. I said, well, actually around your thighs right there, it does hug you a little bit close, so you might want to. And I see Jennifer's face. It's funny because that was like the reaction of all the girls in my classroom. And they're like, oh, you did not do
I think that's a generally sensitive response. I mean, if a woman is going to ask that question, she needs to be prepared for the answer. I don't ask that if you don't want someone to tell you the truth. I don't know. I mean, my response to something would be like, I really don't like that dress on you. There's other dresses that look so much better. Let's try some more.
Exactly. So if you ask me a question like that and I don't answer and I'm thinking about it, that's because I am thinking the best way to answer you, or just to say, I'm not going to answer that and call it a day.
Well, with that said, there's so many labels we like to put on ourselves, including this is my personality, or I'm a Scorpio, or whatever it is. I'm going to read you a fabulous quote by Paul Graham. He was an entrepreneur and very successful one at that. He says, the more labels you have for yourself, the dumber they make you. Yeah, I agree. So again, don't label yourself as this is me. Just this is what I'm doing right now. This is my sign, but it doesn't define me. I have a choice. I can change these things. I can turn this darkness or these propensities or tendencies into strengths. Go and improve your relationships. Be more compassionate with yourself and others, as we're all trying to improve. We're all just little babies down here trying to learn how to walk, quite frankly. So be patient as you go through this program on the Overcome Depression podcast. I want to thank John again for being here with us today, providing amazing conversation. We will see you next time.
Bye now.
If you are new to this podcast, please go watch all of the hashtag introduction videos first, and then consider downloading the Overcome Depression workbook. Links in the description. The content in this podcast is based on my own personal beliefs, is for informational purposes only, and is not intended to substitute for medical advice, diagnoses, or treatment. Please refer to the full legal disclaimer in the description.